2, 1. Going live. We're going live. Happy Friday. Friday, the 4th of April. Friday, the 4th of April. It's also my wedding anniversary. 27 trips around the sun, my wife and I. And a few more together before that. 27 years. So there we go. Good morning. How are we doing? Let me check the streams, make sure everything is streaming as it should. Looks good on YouTube. Let me check. Looks good on Twitch and LinkedIn. Hey, my name is Keith. I stream Monday through Fridays from 8 a.m. to around 8:30, sometimes a little longer, depending on the news of the day or the questions I get in chat. And we talk about tech, what's going on in the job market, what's going on in the news. That's kind of what we do, what I do. But what you do while you're watching is get out job applications. That's the goal of the stream. If you are in the market for a job, if you got laid off recently, if you are just out of college and you're looking for that first gig, if you are changing careers and getting into tech and want to be a programmer, professional developer, you know how much of a struggle it is to get a job today. And the problem I sought out to solve with this stream was to just be a person you can check in with every morning while you're doing that job of getting those job applications out, right? It is not fun looking for a job, and I just want to be your hangout companion when you're doing that thing. You get up in the morning, get yourself a caffeinated beverage. I got one right here. And we're going to, every morning, Monday through Friday, check in and hang out while you're getting those job applications out. I'm in Austin, Texas, so I'm in the middle of the United States. We, again, broadcast 8 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. And I have been a professional developer for over 35 years. So let's get into it. The first thing I always do is check what's going on in the job world. And you will see from my charts and graphs here that it's been flat. Which is actually welcome news. Because this week, with all the craziness that's going on in the political world and the business world, and we'll be looking at news stories about that shortly, all this week it was headed down. So it appears to have bottomed out for now. Fingers crossed. We talked about this week, that the markets, the business world, don't appreciate uncertainty. And with the looming tariffs hanging over everybody's head, they weren't sure, is it going to be a nothing burger? Is it going to be, a feint to the left, just a bluffing tactic, or is he going all in? Turns out, he did it. He went to everybody's worst case scenario. Again, there's still uncertainty about how long they're going to last, but there seems to be no blinking with the markets down twice, 2 days in a row. Doesn't seem to be any blinking from the administration. So we know something. We've got one data point, and that is tariffs are going to be affecting certain companies. We got numbers to put on that. As much as companies and countries might not like that, it's at least a starting place. It's probably not going to get any worse from here. Fingers crossed. It can only get better if he backs off on certain tariffs, or gets, certain industries get carve-outs, which, happens. But I don't know. It's been a rough week. Again, the numbers have been flat. In the last week, you'll see it dipped a little towards the end of the week, but bounced back up again today. If we look at the last 6 months, it's been, you could say slightly upturned, but really, no, it's kind of flat within the margin of error. And when we look at the last year, it's slightly downturned. But more importantly, you'll see that, this time last year, we had 30% more job postings than we have right now. Just pulling a number out of the air, eyeballing it. If we get a little more granular in the details, we can see that since the beginning of the year, overall job numbers for JavaScript developers, which is really the primary indicator of the web world. Where the web world goes, so does so much of industry. And so, just to get a thumbnail, we're looking at JavaScript developers here, and we'll see that we started out low because of the holidays. We rocketed up. It looked like it was going to be a great year. And then the inauguration happened, and everything's been kind of basically flat since then. This is a number that is good to look at, kind of what the industry-wide is doing, but it doesn't help you in your job search because these are all mostly local jobs. If you live in Des Moines, you're not going to be applying for a job in San Jose unless you want to pick up yourself and possibly your family and move to the West Coast. So this second number over here, this number represents the remote jobs. Those jobs where you don't have to be sitting in the seat of your coworkers. You can work from your home, like I am right now. And that number also been flat. But that in itself tells us something, right? With all this talk about return to office for government workers, for the Mag 7 large companies like Amazon, you'd think from just reading the headlines that there was a huge return to office across the whole industry. That's really not the case. Well, we're seeing, again, it's not huge growth, but there's not huge growth in jobs in general. The numbers are staying flat for return to office too. That's something. If we break it down even more to entry-level, mid-level, and senior-level developers, again, the numbers are all flat. But the standout thing to take away here is, if you're an entry-level developer, you want to get to be in a mid-level as quickly as possible. Or you want to just throw some Hail Mary passes and get some of those, applications out for jobs that you aren't quite qualified for. There are just going to be more of those. If you're a senior dev, I've got a friend who was laid off last month, and he's as experienced as I am, and he's got a couple of college degrees, including a master's degree. So he's not only a senior dev, but he's papered in that way. He's been hearing a lot from employers, but it's mainly, I'll say mainly, from those mid-level jobs that he put out for. He's overqualified for in some ways. He's getting callbacks on that stuff for sure. So if you're willing to take potentially a lower salary for a job, holding out for the smaller senior positions, smaller number of senior positions, is maybe something you might not want to do. You can always just go get a mid-level job that brings some money in, and then keep looking for a job. The important thing is get back on a payroll. That's the most important thing. I've always felt that in my career. I've never quibbled too much over salary. It was more important for me to have a day job, pay the bills while I work on my side projects that, fingers crossed, would turn into something a little more than that. When we look at the last graph here, we're talking about remote jobs, entry-level, mid-level, senior-level remote. Again, tells the same story. Not as many as those job postings that are out there, but those that are out there, they're more mid-level roles. If you're entry level and you want to get a remote job, it is really difficult. And I never, you know, the first thing I would say is apply for everything, take the first job you get. Apply for remote jobs for sure if you're trying to break into the industry. But that is not a good first job for you. You don't want to be in that first job. You want to be in a first job where you're surrounded by more experienced people that you can learn from. The faster you become an expert, the more valuable you come. You become more valuable by, fingers on keyboard, coding every day, building projects for your day job, building side projects to learn from, or as just a project you're trying to get off the ground, and then being around more experienced developers, sitting in seats right across the cubicle from somebody who's got 5 years, 10 years experience. You will learn so much in so little time just by hanging out with them that you're just never going to get in a Zoom meeting occasionally at a stand-up, right? So, again, apply for everything, take the first job, but really shoot for an in-person job if you're trying to break into the industry. Okay, let's look at the news. I always check LinkedIn, and more specifically, I check the news on LinkedIn. New breaking story. Let's check that out. Updated 5 minutes ago. The U.S. economy added more jobs than expected in March as milder weather fueled a rebound in some sectors. New non-farm payrolls totaled 228,000. The Labor Department reported on Friday compared with a roughly 140,000 forecast by economists. Still, the unemployment rate ticked up to 4.2 and from 4.1. The labor market had been expected to lose momentum amid tariff-induced uncertainty, mounting layoffs in the public and private industries, and markets have also been melting down over growth fears. So this is interesting. The thing about the jobs forecast is that it is an estimation. In the last administration, they got a lot of heat because they were reporting numbers, and then, a month later, they'd report the real numbers, and there was a big disparity there. And, people on both sides of the aisle were, like they always do, making noise about that. The opposition was saying, they're rigging the numbers. Generally speaking, that's not the case. These numbers are put together by nonpartisan people who are just trying to do their job. But there's always, these numbers are always just an estimation. So, the forecast is an estimation. The actual job numbers are an estimation. And then a month from now, we'll see what the real numbers are. It would be interesting to see that the numbers almost doubled from the estimation. That's a pretty high surge given where we are, because I have not seen that in our sector, in the tech sector. As we saw, the numbers have been flat, so it'll be curious to see when the real numbers come out, how they're adjusted. China sets a 34% tariff on U.S. goods starting April 10th. Its finance ministry said Friday, sending stock tumbling once again. The retaliatory levy comes just days after President Trump announced sweeping tariffs on all U.S. trading partners, including a 34% tax on Chinese goods. The European Union will face a 20% tax, which is also expected to respond with aggressive countermeasures, raising fears of a global trade war. We're in a global trade war. when the first shots are fired, that's war. I don't know how else to say that. That's just going to be where we're at. we'll see. I read another headline this morning that when they announced the the tariffs, they put Taiwan as a country that was going to have a tariff levied against them. And if you follow the news, China does not agree that Taiwan is its own country, and they weren't happy about that. Evidently, they weren't happy about that. I don't know. Stocks extend sell-off after a wipeout. S&P 500 futures fell again sharply on Friday ahead of crucial jobs report. China vowed to impose new tariffs on U.S. goods. Investors are upping their bets in an economic downturn amid concerns escalating tariffs will curb growth and lead to higher prices. On Thursday, roughly $3.1 trillion in market value was wiped out. The S&P 500 recorded its sharpest one-day decline since the onset of the pandemic. J.P. Morgan said the chance of a U.S. global recession this year has risen to 60%. 60% is more than 50%. That's a headline. That's my headline. 60% is more than 50%. So you're going to flip a coin today. That means likelihood there's going to be a recession. Global recession. Global recession. What are you guys doing about it? You doing anything? My son is in high school. He's a senior in high school, and they have, I was talking about this week, but they have a thing where they're buying fake stocks, fake buying stocks. They're real stocks, but they're fake buying stocks. It's a class project, trading stocks and stuff. And I gave him some money last year because he wanted to buy some real stocks. And he got on this app, and I gave him $50, and he put it on Amazon, and all of it on Amazon, and it all went crazy. He got up to like $85 or something like that. The returns were crazy. And so I talked to him last night. I was like, "How are your stocks doing?" He's like, "I sold them." I'm like, "You sold your stocks?" He said, "Yeah, I sold them." I was like, "When did you sell them?" He's like, 2 days ago. I'm like, "Man, you might have a you might have a future in this. You sold at the right time, my man. Are you going to buy again?" He's like, "Maybe in a couple of days." That cracks me up. So what you going to do? What you going to do? I did not sell. I do own very little stocks. 15% of my 15% of my cash, my available cash, is in stocks. Not my. Most of my money's tied up in my house, like most people. But maybe 15% are at Roth IRAs and that 501ks and those kind of things. But I don't buy any individual stocks. And so I looked at it this week, and I was like, I already rebalanced earlier, last month. I rebalanced when everything started to slide, and that stopped the bleeding. But I'm not interested in fiddling with that stuff. Just hold, buy and hold. That's what they all say. That's what I do. I don't have any interest in following the market too closely. Job growth seems slowing further. The U.S. economy is expected to have added fewer jobs. So this is just an old story now with the update being, turns out there are more jobs than expected. Layoff surge to a near record high. Layoffs in March surpassed 275,000, a near record-setting figure, topped only by those for April and May, when the pandemic shut down much of the economy, according to data released Thursday by the outplacement firm Challenger Grain Christmas. The Department of Government Efficiency, which is working to shrink the government, was responsible for the vast majority of cuts, while other job data remained stable. Federal layoffs for the month were up 672% from a prior year. I'm curious about this. I was thinking about this yesterday. There are all these layoffs. The administration has had to, 2 weeks later, hire a bunch of people back. Not the majority of them, but, again, they went at these job cuts with a hatchet. So, then stuff started breaking or people started complaining or whatever. And they had to ask people, oh, we didn't mean it. My bad. Here's your job back after a couple of weeks. So that kind of stuff is happening. So if you got laid off, you don't know. Maybe you just got a 2-week vacation. It's not paid, but maybe you just got a 2-week vacation, and they're going to bring you back. So you're not rushing out to get another job necessarily. But maybe you are. Maybe you are rushing out. I need a job, and screw the government. Now I'm qualified. I've got great experience, which might be valuable to certain companies. If they do a lot of business with the government, and you're out there putting out job applications, if you're on the hiring team and you see this person was just laid off from the government, does that make him more attractive or less attractive? Because you never know, right? They're all going to, so many of them are involved in lawsuits to get their jobs back. Do you want to hire somebody and invest the time and the money that it takes to onboard somebody just to find out that they get a big lump sum in a lawsuit and get their old job back? And they're like, thank you very much. I'll see you later. I'm going back to work to the government. I don't know. I mean, I guess, it's a wild world in hiring in all the sectors anyway, but I wonder if anybody's thinking about that, or if they're just like, yeah, this is a good candidate. Call him in. Let's go through the process. See how interested they are in the role. TikTok deadline looms. I've heard. I'm not following the story very closely at all, but I've seen the headlines for it. But with all the other stuff going on this week, it's not taken up a lot of press. So there's not a whole lot of, you just see these things like Amazon, Oracle, Blackstone, Andreessen Horowitz. You would think that this would be, at least in tech news, a big, big news story. Oh, who's got what? I want to get the inside scoop. Oh, who's got the best deal? Who's putting out the best money? Who are all the players? But I'm not really seeing anything along that lines. Any of the gossipy stuff that we often see in tech news. Workers are leaving these sectors. Amid U.S. workers' economic pessimism and plummeting career confidence, at least half are looking to make a career pivot. Americans employed in retail accommodations and the oil and gas and mining industries are most likely to be considering roles in a different field or to have already pivoted to a new industry recently, according to LinkedIn's latest workforce confidence study findings. Employees in transportation technology and consumer services, in transportation technology and consumer services are also more likely than average to be pivoting industries right now. Every industry is going to be hit a little different with the tariffs, with the inclusion of AI, and even within those in those sectors, different verticals, different parts of the companies, the sectors will be hit differently. So there's definitely going to be a lot of shuffling of jobs. What I'm saying to a lot of people who are, making noise about this kind of stuff, have questions about it, is especially when it comes to the conversation of AI. Um, is it depends on where you're working. Like my wife is an attorney; she works for the government. Um, her job doesn't change very much. She is an expert in her field. She's been doing her job for more than a decade. She is not one of the people who is likely to be laid off in any of these kind of governmental layoffs. Um, she's good at what she does. Um, it's not a passion for her. She's just capable, smart, able to do very technical, um, legal stuff. Most of it's beyond me, frankly. And she does a good job. Everybody's happy with her. She's going to continue as long as she wants to in that role. Uh, it's a job again that doesn't change. Every couple of years, new laws are introduced that she's got to educate herself around. Uh, but it's not like working in tech where you never know. Tomorrow, a new technology is going to drop that's going to completely shift the way the world works, right? So if you're in one of those segments that doesn't change very much, um, and you're just really good at your job, and that job tends to be more essential, you can do. You're fine to just you know keep on plugging away. If you're in a more volatile sector, like tech, like retail, like oil and gas, um, you need to look at: are you just a seat filler in the sense that are you the working for the weekend person, um, who's showing up, doing what's asked of you, and then going home, right? Are you spending extra time outside of your job, thinking about your job, thinking about how to be better in your job, thinking about how to grow in your job? If you're not, that's a sign that you could be laid off. You could be uh, overlooked when it comes to promotions and raises and the like. Right? Those people in all these different sectors, if they're passionate about it, if they're willing to put in the extra effort, if they're doing work on the outside, bettering themselves, making themselves more capable at doing their job by taking classes, by working on side projects, whatever it is. Not every job lends itself to that, but if you are that person who's putting in the extra effort, chances are you're going to be fine. You're just going to be fine. Every job, whether it's hit by AI or a downturn in an economy, they're going to look at the people who are really putting the extra effort in and making headway, really contributing with excess value to the company. Are going to keep those people around. But again, if you're just there, you don't necessarily love the job, you don't love the role, you don't love the company, you're just getting a paycheck. Those are the people that need to be a little more concerned right now in a downturn in the economy. Because layoffs are going to happen. They're going to focus on cutting out the least productive workers. And, if you're not in that role, start looking for a role you can be passionate about. That you can, or a company that you can work for in the role that you can be passionate about. At the end of the day, that's what companies respond to. All right, we're getting down to the end of it. Let's see. Yeah, retail's going to be hit. Accommodation's going to be hit. Less people traveling. Oil, gas, and mining. The oil prices have tanked. So much for drill, baby, drill. It's going to be interesting to see. Let's wrap it up here. Okay, I'm going to say the things I always say on Friday. It is Friday. Congratulations. Hey, we reached the end of the week. But if you're unemployed, if you're out of college and you're looking for that first job, uh, it's not the end of your week. Every day of the week, you should be out looking for a job. And it's more important if you look for a job on a Sunday than it is to look for a job on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. There are going to be more job postings on a Wednesday and a Thursday of the week, but there are going to be more people looking at those, right? We want to get ourselves to the top of the stack of any job posting. And the way that we do that is, go out of our way to do the extra effort that other people are not going to do. Other people who don't want a job as much as you are going to be taking the weekends off. They're going to be sleeping in on a Sunday morning. They're going to be hanging out and complaining with their friends about how bad the job market is. And you're going to be getting up. You're going to be getting a caffeinated beverage on Saturday and on Sunday. And you're going to get some job postings out. Because one thing you will see when you get up on Saturday morning and filter for the last 24 hours, you will see lots of jobs being posted. And if you get up on Sunday morning and you do the same thing, you're going to see not as many jobs, but new jobs posted. And those postings are going to have less people who are applying for them. So you got a smaller number of people, more chance for you to be at the top of the stack, more chance to catch somebody's eye. That is what you got to do. So I'm taking the weekend off. I do have a day job, but you can't take the weekend off. All right, seems like a pretty good weekend in Austin, Texas. Hopefully you weren't afflicted by all the crazy weather that's been going on in the U.S. this week. But either way, again, your job is to get a job. And your job continues tomorrow. So have a great weekend. I will see you next Monday at 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. Until then, my name is Keith. Please share the stream with anybody that you know who